Himalaya.
Hi, this is Rosie Mercado, and you're listening to Season 2 of The Girl with Self-Esteem Issues, a Himalaya Learning audio course. To listen to the rest of the audio course and others like it, go to Himalaya.com/Rosie Season 2 and enter promo code RELATIONSHIPS to get your first 14 days absolutely free. I hope to see you there. I'm Rosie Mercado, and this is The Girl with Self-Esteem Issues, where we get real about the rewarding parts of life, including, of course, motherhood. And who best to talk about motherhood than two super mamas? Yes, our guests today are Bricia Lopez, Maytorena, and Paulina Lopez Velazquez of Super Mamas. Welcome to the pod, mamitas. How are you guys?
Hi. Doing great.
Oh my
Thanks
God.
for having us, Rosie.
Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it. But before we get started, I want to start with the quote of the day so we could get inspired. Today's quote comes from the one and only Oprah. I believe the choice to become a mother is the choice to become one of the greatest spiritual teachers there is. Ladies, what do you think about today's quote?
No pressure.
No pressure.
I mean, I will tell you that it's one of the most rewarding things. But I think the reason why motherhood can be very challenging at times, it's because there is just so much pressure to be the best at everything 24/7 all the time. And obviously that's not achievable. I am far from a spiritual teacher, but I will say that having children has helped me evolve to become a better me, a me that I could have never thought I could be. It allowed me to love myself in ways I thought I never even imagined possible, that I could not just love other people, but learn to love me, because it is very true that you really do have to learn how to love yourself before you can love others. And I think children definitely teach you that. And if that's spiritual teaching, well then, hey, call me Oprah number 2.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think same thing. I think motherhood has really bring out a lot of the things that I had, I'm going to say, suppressed for a long time. One of those things has been just really trying to find myself. And in that journey, I feel that my kids seeing me becoming a better person, a better version of myself, has helped them as well. I have definitely become more spiritual myself and more during this time. And I think that just by example, my children have learned what that means at that age, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a journey. I think motherhood is a journey, because you don't just, you have your babies and it's not like, oh my God, you're the best mother in the world. It's acquired wisdom throughout trial and error. And I could say, like, for me being a mom and like just being mom again now at 40, the wisdom that I've attained through my other 3 kids, and now being a new mom again. And I get to, I don't want to say compare, but that's what it ends up being. You compare like everything that you learn, and like what I did with one child and what I learned with another, and what I'm learning through this experience. And it's like a whole rebirth. But at the same time, like, I could acknowledge that there were some moments that I was a shitty mom. I was a shitty mom because I was finding myself and I was going through growth and kind of trying to figure everything out with my emotions and my being. And then also, going through, losses and failures and relationships, and then being a mom. And there's so many things in the mix. And that's what I think that's what I feel, that there's such a huge responsibility when it comes to motherhood, to get real about it. Like, to get real about it, because sometimes we shame ourselves, or we don't want to get real about the emotions that we're thinking, or just say, like, I'm really thinking this. I don't know, like, if it's like, what's wrong with me. It's not so much what's wrong with me. It's just acknowledging that you have a thought there, whether it's good or bad. It's a thought. And where is that coming from? You guys get real on your podcast about talking about motherhood. What brought all this on?
Well, I think we grew up with this idea of what motherhood should look like, right? Growing up in Mexico, in Oaxaca, growing up in a telenovela culture, motherhood was supposed to be this perfect, amazing thing. And you go to the hospital and you come back with this baby and you're like the perfect mother. And when I became a mom, I crashed with the wall, and I realized that it had nothing to do with what I grew up thinking that motherhood was going to be. I didn't know how to connect with my child. I went into a really big, deep postpartum depression. And then I started questioning, like, how come we get, put this idea in our head of what it should be, and no one really tells you about all the shitty things that happen when you become a mother. And so I felt very lonely also when I became a mom. It was a very lonely place to be. No one in my family had babies. Very few of my friends had babies. I just felt lonely. And when my sister became a parent herself, and we started kind of bonding over our experiences, we realized that, there was many people, many girls feeling the same way. But, in our culture, we're not supposed to talk about those failures. We're not supposed to talk about the hard parts. We're not supposed to talk about, the milk struggles and what your body goes through, and the relationship with your husband, and how shitty you feel every day, and the guilt that you feel. And so we thought, how come no one is talking about these things? How come no one is normalizing this? And it was just a way for us to actually also get it out of our chest and, just vent. We actually started recording with a bottle of wine every week back then, 5 years ago. And, it was a really good release for us. And we just started taking momentum, and we realized there was a lot of people that were feeling like that, and they really related to our experiences being bicultural, bilingual, just trying to juggle everything in motherhood. And that's how it started. That's how Super Mamas came to be.
What do you feel is like the realest thing that you've said? And have you ever gotten backlash for it? It's like, how dare you say that about motherhood? Like, did you ever get any kind of shit like that?
Well, I think like one time that we talked about, was it just having help, right? I think like being okay with having help. That was the one time that people were like, that's such privilege, having help. And we were just like, I mean, shouldn't everybody get help in being a mother? I mean, it's not as easy as it looks. It's not as easy as it sounds. We wish it would be, we wish we could be running a business and raising kids and having a relationship and being friends, and it could be perfect, but we really can do it on our own. And we have to be okay with asking for help and knowing that it takes a village to raise a child. And we want to take on everything as mothers. We want to be the ones doing everything every single time. But in reality, you can't. Like, it's just the truth, right? Like, us being here right now takes more people. There's someone watching our kids right now. There's someone doing other things for us. And we have to be okay with that. We can't do everything ourselves.
I completely agree. And I feel like, especially being Latina, and, it's like growing up, and it's like, tú tienes que hacer todo, like, ándale, ánimo, like, echa pa'lante, like, you have to. And while that's a wonderful thing to keep going, the reality is that sometimes it's okay to ask yourself, like, how am I feeling? Because motherhood could be overwhelming, whether it's your first kid, the third or the fourth, the fifth, like, doesn't matter. Each experience on its own, it's a brand new experience that you go through. And with it, you develop a relationship with your baby that has a new personality, has new things that you're learning about that. And then on top of it, your body goes through different changes through different pregnancies, because pregnancy, whether it's a boy or a girl, each pregnancy is different. And it just really energetically, like, in some of them I was more hungry than others, and others I was more sleepy than others I was happier. Like, it just, there's so many moving pieces to that. And I feel like it's okay to ask yourself, like, am I okay? And if I'm not, like, what thoughts am I having? And and I think it's healthy to be able to share, to be able to express yourself. I think that's so important. And I feel like there's just so much shaming when it comes to motherhood, when it's like, how dare you talk about that? Like, or how dare you say this? Like, there's worse things going on in the world. While I understand that this is what I'm going through right now. Do you ever, is there other shaming moments that you guys, learned from, or have gone through, or have seen other mothers go through, and you're like, hold on, I have to say something about this?
I think that we have always been very open, Paulina and myself. And I'm sure that it's the same for you, that when you go in the mic and you start speaking, it's almost therapeutic, right? And we have been open from day one. And our day ones that we call them, the women who have been listening to our podcast since the first episode, or the women who binge on our show, know us more than I think, our closest friends, because we really spilled the most intimate moments in the show, and people have been growing with us. And since day one, we've always said that it was a judgment-free zone, and that we really don't condemn the shaming of others. And I think it's more, if anything, it's more shaming between my sister and I, like, oh my gosh, you did this, or like, oh, you did that. And I think because it's two sisters just shit talking one another sometimes, I think it kind of takes it away. Does that make any sense? Like I'm always giving Paulina shit for having 3 kids, not in that way, but I'm all like, oh, you and your 10 children, which, I mean, but I would love to have 3 kids too. You know what I'm saying? So it's, and I think that, like, a lot of us in our Super Mama community, we're just so real that we just let it all out. And shaming isn't something that we even give space to. But like Paulina said, I think the one time was the backlash about us saying that I had someone that would come to my house once a week and would help me with laundry and would help me with, sometimes with cooking, and would help me with different things. And that was really hurtful for us, because I think one of the things that we don't speak about in the Latina culture is that the fact that I have friends who, up until that moment, were so secretive about talking about the help they would get in their home. And to me, it just didn't register. And they explained that they were just so ashamed that other people would judge them because, oh my gosh, you mean to tell me you don't wash your own clothes, clean your own bathrooms, run your own business, like my sister saying, cook your food every single night, have a husband, go on vacations, drink water, exercise. Like, how can you not do all of that? Aren't you supposed to be Superwoman? That like takes away from it. And we had an episode that we addressed it on the show. And then after that, I don't really recall anything else but that. But I think it's more of like my sister and I talking shit to each other, other than like because we're so different too, Paulina and myself. And I think we represent one type of mom and another type of mom. And those moms coming together and just having nothing but love and sister love. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good question. Let me ask you this. What type of moms are there out there?
Well, there's like the free range mom, the helicopter mom, the screen mom, the like Montessori mom, the I don't give a fuck mom, that like, there's all types of moms. But I think it's like, that's not just like the types of moms, it's type of women. I mean, there's so many personalities, right? That's really personality driven. I know women who their kids are 3 and have never seen a YouTube show in their life. And I'm like, damn, that's the type of mom you are. And I'm like, my kid can like, every time I do a video with him, he's like, click subscribe. And I'm like, subscribe? Who are you talking to? Comment below, subscribe. And I'm like, what are you saying? So I think like those are, when we say types of moms, we just mean the personalities that come behind, the mom. And my sister and I are very different. I mean, we're sisters. We've known each other our entire life. We love each other. We're ride or dies. I would die for her. She would die for me, but we're very, very different people.
And I think that's the beauty of being different and just learning experiences and sharing those experiences. There's just so much that could be celebrated through that. Now, Bricia, you recently had a baby during the pandemic. I'm also a mama that had a baby during the pandemic. How was your motherhood experience? Like, how has that been for you? Because it's been crazy different for me, and I've learned so much about it.
It has definitely been different, but I would say that, and again, I feel a little bit of guilt saying this, but it has been the most wonderful experience for me. Not being allowed to leave my home has been great for me. Being pregnant, having my child. With my first son, I was back at work after 2 months. I just wanted to go. And with her, I just took everything so slow. I was so focused on really honoring those first, 40 days, los 40 días that every grandma tells you about. I've seen the change that it has had on my body this time around, like having taken care of me, being able to breastfeed my daughter every single day without me having to go to work and come back. I mean, there are days where I have to leave my home to go to work physically, but I mean, breastfeeding and working has been, instead of pumping and working, has just been such a blessing in my life. And just seeing her grow up right before my eyes, and it's been wonderful, to be honest. I've been loving having that time, and just being slow is been great.
Yeah, I think it gives us the opportunity as moms to be able to see, I don't know, for me, being able to see like when my baby smiles, when he's frustrated, like I've learned to pay attention to that. I feel like I'm more in tune, but also I've also felt like I've like paid attention to, I didn't get to do that with my daughter when she was younger, because I was always on the go, and it like made me realize how many benchmark moments I missed, how many special moments I missed from being able to, like, I don't remember when my daughter sat up and like my son is sitting up on his own, and it's like, oh my God, like I literally saw like from one day to the next, like how many changes how he's learning to get off my lap and he's not even crawling yet. And I'm like, when did my daughter start doing that? So it really has made me appreciate that side of motherhood. And then it's also made me grow as a mom, and saying, wow, like there's a lot of things that I could do better as a mom with my other kids. I could, to be more connected. So it's really given me a sense of appreciation of being present, of really being present without the distractions of running and pulling in different directions, because that was the reality of life before pandemic hit. I don't know how your hospital experience was, but for me, it was crazy scary. I literally was so anxious, and because I was told like a couple days before that my husband wasn't going to be able, and I was going to be to go up with me, and I was getting a C-section, and being alone through that process, and then being told like literally 20 minutes before, like, oh, he could come up, like we're going to go ahead and let him go up, because they saw I was having like a panic attack. Going through that process for me was scary. I think that's the scariest part for me from the pandemic. Other than having just moments of like, all right, I need a 5-minute break. I need to at least go outside in my garden and just take a breather, because I just need to get out of the house. Did you experience anything like that at the hospital?
I've always been the person that, number one, I don't want anyone in the room when I give birth. Like I've never been like that. Like my difference, my sister wants everybody in the room. Like she wants like the whole family there to like be there and like support her.
I mean, now when the baby's born, but being born, but yeah, before.
Yeah, when she gave birth to Sixta, her youngest, there was 5 people in the room.
Yeah,
maybe 6. I think probably 6. Yeah. And for me, when I gave birth to my son, I really didn't. I mean, my mom came last minute, and this time around, I knew it was going to be just myself and my husband. I knew he was able to come with me. But I've never and this time even more so, I did not focus on the birth at all. Like I think one thing that the pandemic has taught me was just to surrender to it is what it is. So many things have happened that I just said to myself, you know what, I'm just going to go. I mean, I had to get induced. All these things started rushing through my mind because all I've heard was horror induction stories. I have not even once heard a story about somebody getting induced and coming out like right on the other side. So when I found out I was going to have to get induced, I was like, you know what, God, praise the Lord, whatever you want, I am in your hands. And I just let it go. And it was wonderful. Like, it was great. It's different with your second, I'm sure third, fourth. It's, she came out 3 pushes, 1, 2, 3, let's go. Let's get out of here. Obviously there were, she was premature. She was 4 weeks early. There were all these things happening, but I just started, praying, and like everything, I just said one thing at a time. And I just kept thinking to myself, at the end of this, I'm going to have a beautiful girl. She's going to be healthy. And that's when shit's going to start getting real. This is the easy part. And that's what I just kept telling myself. Like, this is the easy part. Like, just come out, be healthy. And after that, honestly, I'm like, I just want to be in my bed, being tended to, my husband getting me whatever I want, have that moment with her. And like, I just kept thinking about that. And I just never focused on, because if I did, I would have driven myself crazy. And I think that's the one thing that the pandemic has taught me, and how I've changed drastically. Even my mom has noticed, my dad has noticed. I'm just so much more chill about things,
Yeah. Yeah. What did you learn? Did you go through postpartum depression, and what did that teach you?
My sister went through postpartum depression. I learned a lot from her experience. I mean, she can speak about that journey. But for me, I've always, I've always just wanted to focus on those moments with my kid afterwards, like, and not put so much focus on the type of pregnancy I wanted to have. I never really focused on that, to me, it was more about who's going to take care of me, like right after, and putting those pieces in place together. But my sister can speak about her experience, and I think I've learned a lot from her about therapy, about mental health. I mean, I wasn't really, educated on mental health until my sister came forward and told us what, the experience she has had. And I think she's not just taught herself, but she's taught our entire family.
Wow. Paulina, what was your experience with that?
Wow. How much time do we have? It's been such a long journey. It's been like a my daughter's 9-year-old journey. I've had postpartum depression twice. The second time was worse than the first time, but I've learned a lot about myself. I think I have grown the most because of that. And, I am actually thankful because that happened to me, because otherwise Super Mamas wouldn't have happened. My growth wouldn't have happened, educated myself, my family, and hopefully a part of the community. That's one of the things that I'm very open on the show about, just mental health and self-care, because it was really hard. It was really, really hard. I used to go to therapy in secret. I went to therapy in secret for like a whole year. My family didn't know. I never really was public about it. I never told anyone. I was so ashamed because, our culture is like, you get a therapy when you're crazy. So, was I crazy? Like, am I crazy? Did motherhood make me crazy? I wanted this baby so bad. Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So
I think that's the question, right? That's the question that we all go through. That's not the healthiest question. What is wrong with me? If we could turn that question around to, what is really going on? Where are these thoughts coming? It's not what's wrong with you. I think a lot of more people would seek out help. They would seek out help in a whole different, it would really turn situations around, and just, it'd be something that would feel good. And there wouldn't be so much shame, like what you went through of keeping it a secret. Cause I think, especially as Latinas, estás loca, o sea, estás loca que tienes que ir a buscar ayuda. Like, that's like the first thing that pops up, and we can't.
Or like, it's not real, it's like, it's a hoax.
Come on, órale, tienes críos. Vámonos, like, come on.
Depression is a hoax. Oh my God.
Yeah. Depression is a hoax.
Yeah, like,
and now, like all these years later, my husband goes to therapy, I go to therapy, and then we have joint therapy, and that has dramatically improved our relationship, our marriage, with our kids, my relationship with people, my relationship with myself, which is the most important one. I think, like, the thing that I have gained the most is like the relationship that I have with myself, and the way that I view myself now, because I always viewed myself as a victim. I always view myself like as a less than. I always view myself like as not adequate. Like, I always had the imposter syndrome, and I still fight through it. I still struggle with it, but now I don't listen to those voices anymore. I'm trying to find my own voice through this journey. And I think that's one of the biggest things that happens. Like, we get put all these ideas growing up in our head that make us who we become. And then we quiet down our own voice sometimes. And those voices get to be louder than what we are. And I think, like, the work that I've done has helped me back up and turn it around as to make my voice louder. And what do I want? What do I feel? What works for me, and quiet down everybody else. So it's been an amazing journey for me.
And I think, and also, like, in turn with you going through all of that, and then seeking the help and finding the answers, and really being able to figure out, okay, yes, I have this inner voice that sometimes makes me question, how do I direct those emotions instead of them directing me? And then in turn, also, you get to share that with your kids, that if one day you see your kids going through depression, you have much more of a handle of, hey, let me seek help. How can I support my kids through this process? How has that impacted your relationship with your kids?
My relationship with my kids has dramatically changed, right? We grew up in a Mexican household, very, my dad, it's like a macho man from Mexico. And, we grew up very differently, very, secretive. We don't talk about these kind of things. Nobody, everything gets solved with like going to work and keeping busy and let's just move. And, and now acknowledging feelings was something that I was not familiar with, right? So whenever my kids now tell me they feel a certain way, I try to find out more. When they tell me that they feel sad or they tell me certain things, I have tools that have helped me that I can pass on to my children. And they have seen it. They have seen the change. They have seen the change, like I said, not only with me, but like with their dad, the relationship that we have with each other, the way that my spiritual journey that has grown a lot, because I understood that I can't do this on my own, and I need God to help me and guide me through this. So it's really, really changed and shaped the way that I mother now and the way that I parent now. And I'm hoping that by that, my kids are gonna need less therapy than me in the future. They're still probably going to need it. And I think everybody needs it. I think, throwing up whatever hurts you at that moment really helps, because if we keep it inside and we suppress those feelings, that's what really gets, makes us crazy. We have to take it out. We have to share. We have to talk to someone. And every time I do my therapy, people think that therapy is so that the person that gives you therapy can fix you. But in reality, you are actually fixing yourself, because when you talk and you say things and you listen back to yourself, you find the answers. I've found my own answers many times. And, she's just there to guide me and to hold my hand through it, to tell me that I'm going to be okay, and that she validates my feelings and just doesn't tell me like, that's stupid or that's wrong or that doesn't exist. She just validates it and like talks in a way to me that I'm like, oh, I never thought about it that way, or, give me a different perspective. But it's been very good for me to go through this journey.
Yeah, I think what you said about validating emotions, I think it's so important not only to say what you're feeling, to feel what you're feeling. And I think in turn, as mothers, it teaches us to really pay attention, like you said, to your kids, when they tell you that something's going on or they're feeling a certain way, to be able to say, hey, like, instead of saying like, suck it up, or like, forget about that, just keep going, or just ignore that, of really getting that communication started with your kids, which is really, really important as they get older, that they feel that, hey, like I could talk to my parents about anything, or I could talk to my mom about anything. She's actually listening and she's asking me questions, because eventually they'll learn that we really do care. And sometimes I feel like growing up, as parents, like you're told, you go through a situation and you say something, and it's not that they do it with bad intention. It's just that was the way they were raised, from an I love you to, constantly working, that you don't hear that a lot. Therefore, you start doing the same thing that your parents did with you. You start doing it to your kids. And it's something that, it's something that just keeps going. So I just feel that communication and asking the right questions, being able to hold that ground for your kids and helping yourself, and then paying it forward and using those same tools and understanding your kids, just creates such much, like it creates a healthier environment and so much understanding when turmoil comes, because eventually we have highs and we have lows, and our kids go through that, on how to support them and really be there for them when they need us, when they really need us. I think that's so important. Moving forward,
breaking
patterns, girl. And talking about breaking patterns, we're going to go right into Rosie's takeaways, where I asked my guests about a moment of adversity that they had and how they overcame it. What was the lesson that they learned from that? What was your moment of adversity?
I mean, when I was thinking about this, I was like, I can tell you 10 moments in a day right now, with everything that's happening. I think the one thing that I've learned is that adversity is going to be present, regardless, no matter what. Like, even when the pandemic is over, we're still going to have adversity. We're still going to have problems. There's still going to be things. But one of the things that has helped me the most during this time is to really, change my focus and I used to be a very fatalist person. I'm probably somewhere deep inside I still am, but I very fatalist. Like something's wrong, and then I go to the next level. I used to, and now I've decided, I need to just take my focus out of that and focus on what's going right. Because if I tend to focus on what's going bad, then everything's gonna go bad. So I change my focus, and I try to figure out what are the things. I journal every day, and I say, these are the things that I'm thankful for today. I try to focus on those things and say, I am grateful, I am here. And no matter what happens, I will eventually, these too shall pass sometime. So that's what I've learned, that, even when I was in my darkest places in my depression, it passed. So it will pass as well.
Bricia, what was your moment of adversity?
Oh, well, like my sister said, you can count them with two hands in the last 10 minutes. But I think that when you sent that question, the first thing that came to mind was just the journey we've been having in our business since the pandemic started. We are in a service industry, in the restaurant industry. We've been in that business for, my gosh, my dad started the restaurant 26 years ago. And we've never experienced anything remotely like this. I mean, I feel and I pray every day for every restaurant owner out there. I am in many groups, support groups, female run restaurants. And there's a new problem every single day. I mean, I remember the Sunday when the Mayor Garcetti here in the city of Los Angeles announced that we had to close down for indoor dining, and we needed to become a takeout restaurant. It was like, the rug was pulled beneath our feet, o como se diga ese dicho. And we just had no idea what was going to happen. And I think at that moment, what we needed to do, I just needed to realize we decided to have this life. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we are here for a reason. We are the leaders, and we need to figure it out. And I think that the moment, the way that I overcame it with my siblings was just realizing that we need to figure it out one step at a time, one day at a time. Not, again, like my sister said, not thinking about, oh my gosh, what can happen. It's what is happening today, and how can this be fixed? What's the next phone call? What's one thing? And I think that for those people who are facing adversities in their businesses, I mean, we just got shut down at outdoor dining again 2 weeks ago. So for those who own businesses or who are going through a hard time right now with the pandemic, I would just say it's just really all about one thing at a time, one step at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. And momentum occurs, but just 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, and before you know, you have run a marathon. So I think that just taking that one step at a time for myself has really, really helped me. And there are weeks where, you give birth and your child starts, virtual kindergarten, and you may not be present that week, but the next one you will. And be kind to yourself. And again, it's not how often you fall off the boat, but how fast you can get back on. That really matters.
Ladies, where can they find you for more inspiration?
Yes, you can find us on our social media platforms at _Super Mamas, Twitter, Facebook, Super Mamas Podcast, Instagram, again, at _Super Mamas, and supermamas.com. My personal Instagram is I am Paulina Lopez, and my sister is Bricia Lopez, at Bricia Lopez.
Ladies, thank you so much for being here on the Girl with Self-Esteem Issues, keeping it real about motherhood and just talking to us about everything that you guys have learned, and, keep inspiring. I love that you guys keep it real. We're sending you much love and much success in everything that you guys do. You guys are listening to the Girl with Self-Esteem Issues, and we just listened to Paulina and Bricia with Super Mamas talking about motherhood. This is the Girl with Self-Esteem Issues. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to the Girl with Self-Esteem Issues podcast. If you want to hear more about my journey, be sure to check out my memoir, The Girl with Self-Esteem Issues, available in both English and Spanish through HarperCollins and HarperOne. You can find the link to purchase in the show description or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Hi, this is Rosie Mercado, and this is the look of the day for the Girl with Self-Esteem Issues podcast. My dress is provided by LuLaRoe Designs. We have jewelry by Melinda Maria and Gucci, hair by Jennifer Arias, makeup by Drea, and nails by Lily. What you just heard was season 2 of The Girl with Self-Esteem Issues, a Himalaya Learning audio course. To listen to the rest of the course and others like it, go to Himalaya.com/Rosie Season 2 and enter promo code RELATIONSHIPS to get your first 14 days free. I hope to see you there.